Greetings, everyone. My name is Erin Riley, and I teach yoga here at my home, Personal Day Yoga. And I also was asked by the Community Investors Group that is tasked with, or they've taken on the task of trying to promote mental and physical wellness for young people in Wellesley. And they had asked me to teach a yoga class at the middle school. And then now that school is all closed, they reached out to me and said, would I be able to maybe try doing something online? So I'm trying, we'll see how it goes. I've mentioned to some people who tuned in a few minutes early that I'm not gonna be playing any music. So if you wanna have some music, you can pick out something that is kind of relaxing and low key, or if you want, you can put on something, you know, crazy and fun, whatever would work for you. That's one benefit of doing this in your own home, is you can put on whatever's gonna make you feel the way you wanna feel. So also, if you can grab an eye pillow and some kind of blanket or something to cover you. I have these soft sheets here in my studio for the final relaxation. So if you get those now, you won't have to go and find them later. So you have a moment to do that. Also in my studio, for the final relaxation, use bean bags under the legs. If you have a beanbag, great. If you don't have a beanbag, you can use a couple of pillows from your couch or any kind of thing that might prop up your legs for the end of class. So you can also grab some blocks and a strap if you need it. All right, so I'm going to assume that people have whatever it is they need. Let me just check one more time the comments before I start. Okay, good. So it seems like things are working. You've gathered whatever you might need if you can get it. And let's begin. So I will admit that I'm feeling a little nervous. I've never been nervous before teaching a yoga class before, but maybe this is a good thing. I'm targeting this at a middle school age group, that feeling nervous is a thing that maybe a lot of us feel a lot in our lives. And yoga can be great for that. So I'm going to use my yoga right now and take some nice big breaths in and let it go slowly out. Just doing that has helped me keep my heart rate down a little bit. So let's begin with the actual class. So let's start in a downward dog. I have this circular mat, so I can change my position and show different angles of poses, but you're going to be just straight up and down on your mat, so that you're looking at the short end of your mat. So spread out your fingers wide, tuck your toes in, and take a nice breath in. And as you exhale, you just lift up your hips, let your head hang low, and take downward dog. I'm going to recommend that we all start with our knees bent, because that way you can elongate through your spine a little bit more. But if you're totally happy with your hamstrings this morning, you can let your heels drop down toward the floor and straighten your legs. But I'm going to stay with them bent. So a couple breaths here, filling up your lungs, emptying out. And then let your knees come to the floor, and we'll take Child's Pose. So Child's Pose is an awesome pose. You can have your arms back by your feet for this time around. Let your arms drop down toward the floor. When your head is down, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing, which is fine. I'm going to try to talk you through everything. But at any point, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can always look at your computer or phone or whatever it is you're looking at and try to catch up with what I'm doing if I'm not doing a good job explaining it with just my words. So in Child's Pose, we'll take a couple of breaths, breathing in, letting it go. And then you can bring your arms out in front again, come up onto your hands and knees, tuck your toes, and one more time, downward dog. So I wanted to show you Child's Pose because that's where you're going to go anytime you feel like you want to retreat a little bit. I also like to call it Wisdom Pose because it shows that you are a wise person and you're listening to your body. So not necessarily just pushing through. Okay, so now we're all going to meet with the right foot up in front between your hands. A couple ways to do that. You can bring your foot directly forward. If that doesn't work for your body, maybe your foot stops here. You can put your hand behind, bring it forward. Or a way that I love to do it, let your left knee come to the floor, move your hand out of the way, bring your foot around. And then you can be in the lunge with your foot right up between your hands. So breath or two here, and then pushing off the back foot. And on an exhale, folding forward. So your forward fold might be deep. It might be way up here, anywhere in between. Just do what you're going to do. Don't be ambitious about a particular location where your fingers are supposed to end up. Just wherever you are when you are hinging forward and you feel a stretch in the backs of your legs. Great. So next time you're breathing in, you can take a little bend in your knees, stand up tall, let your hands touch overhead, and then when you're emptying that breath out, you can pull your hands down through the middle. So people who have studied with me often will know that I always talk about waiting until you finished your breath. So don't do things when I'm doing them. Do them when you're ready to exhale. So my hands are up above my head, my lungs are full. When I'm ready to exhale, I start the journey down. And you'll do the same, hopefully. All right, fingers touching overhead. And then again, next time you're exhaling, let your fingertips come to the floor. Now take your right foot back for the lunge. You can lift your back knee as high as is comfortable for you. Maybe getting a little more stretch in the right front hip. Pulling your heel back, crown of your head forward, breathing in and out. And back to downward dog. So the reason that we're all here together today, or not together as it were, is because of all the craziness. Let's come forward to a high plank position. You can be on your toes or on your knees, either way. And if you want a little extra challenge, you can be on your forearms. So there's all this stuff going on with the coronavirus, and we're sequestered in our homes. Here's an opportunity for us to come together virtually and do something good for ourselves, keeping ourselves healthy in physical and mental state. And then let your knees come to the floor if they're not there already. Hips to the floor, and you can everyone bring your forearms down to the floor for a Sphinx Pose. Press your forearms into the floor, pull your chest through between your upper arms. And I love to do a nice throat stretch, lifting your chin high. And then on your exhale again, whenever you're exhaling, let your head drop down for a little stretch behind your neck. Let your head move around whatever way feels good for you. And if you like visualizing things, you can imagine that your head opens up right now and just dump out all the extra thoughts you don't need. Anything that you're worrying about. Just leave it right there on the mat. And then lift your head to a regular position for you in line with your spine. And then lower to the floor, put your hands under your shoulders, tuck your toes, and rise up onto your hands and knees or through plank. And when you're exhaling, you settle into downward dog again. So those are some basic moves to just kind of warm things up. And now we're going to do some standing poses. So we'll again bring the right foot forward, however works for you. Another option that I didn't mention before is to start from three-legged dog and then bring your leg forward. So however you got the right leg forward, do that. And then let your back heel come down and come up to warrior two. So warrior two, the most important thing safety-wise is, and I'm going to show this angle, is that your knee is pointing straight ahead toward your middle toes. What a lot of people do is they turn too much to the side, and see what just happened to my front knee, how it turns in that way. That's not a happy situation for your knee. So pulling your knee over to the place where it's right in line with your toes, and then let your hip do whatever it needs to do. And then the fingertips reach out and away from each other. I'm going to go back to this angle now. So we can talk a little bit about how the knee bends, whether you're going to go super low if that's right for you, or you're up here, or somewhere in between. Just find a place that's good for you to be working on your warrior two. I'll turn into reverse warrior. Let the front palm face up, tipping over. Reach your fingers toward the ceiling. And if you like to get a tricep stretch, you can reach your fingers down your back, hold on to your elbow, and deepen the stretch there. So let your lungs inflate here, and when you're emptying out, you'll come to side angle. A lot of people like side angle with the elbow on the knee. Some people, if you have a block, you can put a block on the inside of your leg, or maybe you're reaching the floor. Wherever you are, you're pressing the left foot into the floor, reaching your fingertips far away for a big stretch. Good. And coming back up, warrior two. And now we're going to straighten the right leg, and on your exhale, reaching forward for triangle pose. So the couple things I'll say about triangle is, again, don't be ambitious about your fingers have to be at a certain place. Wherever you tip over to with a long, straight spine, then you just let your arms hinge down there. So some people will be touching the floor, some people will be way up here, and again, anywhere in between. Reaching your fingers high and low, away from each other, maybe looking up, triangle pose. And now let's all look down, bend your front knee, come back one more time to warrior two, trying to stack your shoulders over your hips. Most people have a tendency to be leaning forward, and that's why the front thigh gets so tired. So make the back leg do some work too. Okay, so again, you're going to breathe in, and whenever you're exhaling, put your hands one on either side of the front foot, slide your foot back, downward dog. Couple of breaths here, remembering that child's pose, bending your knees and resting your hips on your heels is always a nice place to be. And the wonderful thing, again, about being in your own home is if you want to just stay in child's pose for the rest of the hour, you can do that. I like to say that in my studio, people can do that anyway, and some people stay for a little long bit of time. Anyway, you're going to reach your arms out in front and come on up to your hands and knees again. I'm going to pivot around so you can see what's going on the other side, but you'll stay facing the short end of your mat. So we'll bring the left foot forward now, either from three-legged dog, bringing it forward, or bringing your right knee to the floor, left foot around, and lifting up your back heel. So we're in the lunge now with the left foot in front. Couple of breaths here, and then letting your heel come down, coming up for warrior two on this side. If you used a block for side angle or for triangle, you might grab the block now while it's a little easier to reach and place it there. So warrior two, again, making the adjustment with your front knee. You can take your hand to the outside of your knee and press into your hand. Make sure that your knee is going straight forward. Again, finding exactly how low you want your hips to be. Gazing out, and then turn the front palm up, reverse warrior, either with the fingers long or reaching down your back and holding on with the other elbow. This is a great opportunity to open up your rib cage here, breathing in and letting it go. So you probably were not nervous at the beginning of this class like I was, but all my nerves have gone from all this breathing. Let's go to side angle now. So elbow on the knee, hand on the block, hand on the floor, stretching the whole right side body now. Breathing in. And then coming up to warrior two again, finding that great alignment with your front knee, and then straightening your front knee, reaching forward, and finding your tipping point where you're just going to let your arms hinge down for triangle pose. Looking up if you'd like to, breathing there. Lengthening your spine from base to the crown of your head, twisting around that long spine. And then looking down, back to warrior two. And last breath in here. On your exhalation, hands to the floor. This time we'll come up to the front of the mat. And again, either folding deeply, maybe you grabbed a block and you're using the block to support your hands, fingertips, wherever's going to work for you. Getting a stretch in the hamstrings. Last exhale, and the next time you're inhaling, standing up tall. And again, on your timing of your exhalation, you bring your hands down. Feel like you're pulling something good down into you, and then letting something go that you don't need. And then bringing your hands down to the center again. So let's try a balance pose. Balance poses are great, not only for working on balance and strength, but they're also wonderful because for most people, when you're balancing on one foot, you can't be thinking about something else. So if you're ever way all up in your head, try just standing on one foot for a little while and maybe adding a little extra challenge, and you'll find that you've forgotten what you were worried about. So if you're on an especially squishy mat, I recommend coming onto regular floor. So we're gonna start on standing on the left foot, shifting your weight over to your left foot, and we'll take tree pose. So places for your other foot are gonna be with toes resting on the floor, or at your ankle, letting your instep rest on your calf muscle, or you skip your knee. A lot of people do tree this way, but it's not really safe for the knee joint. Skip your knee, come up and over if that works for you. Otherwise, you're gonna stay here, which is a perfectly wonderful way to do tree. And I should have mentioned already, you're gonna stare, not probably at the computer screen, but at something out in front of you, because I'm probably gonna wobble a little bit, and then that'll make you feel a little tippy. So take your gaze up to something that's stable in your space, and just working there. You can stay with your hands at your heart. You can take your arms out to the side like tree branches. And if you want a little extra challenge, if you're finding this quite stable, you can let your one hand come down onto your knee, the other arm lift up and over, and maybe you take a little side bend in the tree pose. If you fall out of it, that's fine. We aren't actually trees rooted to the ground, so that's okay. And wherever you were, come back to hands at your heart and pause for a moment. And just notice, one, how your standing leg feels, and also two, were you obsessing about other things while you were standing on that foot? So remember that. That's a tool you can use. So let's shift to the other foot. Place your foot where it's going to go on this side. For some people, one side is a lot more open than the other, so you might take a different foot position. And one side is a lot more stable than the other. So if you're a little more tippy on this side, maybe you stay with your hands at your heart, or maybe you're going to go to the variations. Keep breathing, keep pressing into your standing foot, and then maybe dropping the hand, lifting the other hand, and tipping over. Feeling the length from the shoulder blade or the armpit all the way down the side body. Whenever you're ready, inhale back to standing. If your hands weren't already at your heart, bring them there. And again, landing on 2 feet. Great. So let's come back onto your mat. Again, you're going to stand up at the front at the short end. I'm just going to take this angle here. And we'll reach the arms overhead again. And fold over on your exhalation. So now you reach the left foot all the way to the back of the mat. And hop your toes a little out toward the left. So you're on a wider stance left to right. Coming up to Crescent Lunge. So you're going to stay up on your back toes. You can place your hands on the front of your thigh and press to stand up tall. Let your shoulders and shoulder blades drop down, elbows reaching toward the floor so you're not all hunched up like this, even though you're pressing down. And try to extend your back knee straight as much as you can. And just get whatever stretch you can get out of the back leg and whatever strengthening you want out of the front leg. So you might be super low, you might be up here, whatever's right for you. Again, it's always the message, whatever's right for you. And again, if you're feeling at all unstable or tippy, the front foot you can walk over toward the pinky toe side to give you a little more stability left to right. Great. So once you've got your nice tall spine, let your arms reach overhead. Again, shoulders relaxing down. And you can stay like this, gazing at something out in front of you. Or if you feel super stable, you can start to look up, take a slight back bend. Maybe your hands touch together. If your hands are touching, you can put your left thumb into the webbing of your right fingers and lift up. Get a little more stretch in the whole left side body. And then you're filling up your lungs here, emptying out. We're going to take a twist now away from so toward the front knee. So left elbow across on the outside of your front knee. Twisting around. If you're feeling tippy here, you can let the back knee come to the floor. Or if you just want to try that. Maybe looking over your right shoulder, breathing. Letting things relax and soften as much as you can. If you're practicing with someone else, hopefully you're enjoying each other's company. Again, the advantage of being in your own place is you can be chatting or talking to each other, maybe having a laugh or two, unlike in a regular yoga class. So make it your own. Let's undo. If you're on your back knee, coming back up, undo. And again, just circle your arms around, maybe the back bend, maybe looking up. Plant your hands on the floor. Slide the right foot back. A few breaths in downward dog, or there's always the delicious child's pose. If you're not in child's pose and you'd like to work on building some upper body strength, then you can come forward to a high plank pose. Let your toes scooch back a little bit so your shoulder is right over your wrist, not ahead of it, creating stress in your inner wrist crease. Working here, and then on your exhalation, don't hold your breath, either with your legs straight or knees on the floor, you're lowering to the ground. Exhaling. If you are one that does chaturanga to upward dog, you can do that here, otherwise you'll go all the way to the ground. And take cobra or sphinx. So many choices as we go through this vinyasa, the coming forward and lowering down. And you're going to let your head relax down, rising up again, back to downward dog. So now you'll just bring your left foot forward. I'm going to pivot around on the mat. And then again, Maybe your left leg goes high, maybe not. Pop your toes out to the right side of the mat now, right foot. Make sure you have a wide, stable base, left to right, coming up for crescent lunge on this side. So whatever hand you normally would put down, whatever hand you naturally put down, try putting the other one down first. Might feel a little weird, but you're training your brain, working on different neural pathways, straightening up the back leg if you want to go with that, lowering the hips if you want to go with that. So making it your pose. You can be all in, way low with the back leg lifted, or maybe you're taking it a little more relaxed here. Doing what's right for you. So remove the hands and take the fingertips high, shoulder blades relaxing down, and you're either staying here or taking a little back bend. This time, if you want to touch your hands together, your right thumb will go into the left webbing of between your thumb and the next finger, reaching up. Keep breathing in. And then we'll twist again toward the bent knee in the front, so the right elbow comes across. You can stay with your right knee lifted, let it reach down. One is not better than the other, they're just different. Looking over your left shoulder, breathing, feeling what's happening in your rib cage, what's happening in your head. And at some point when you're exhaling, let the twist come out, fill up as you lift up, circle around, hands to the floor, and let's come to the front of the mat again. Take an exhale as you fold forward, or alternately you can think about it as you fold forward, exhaling. Again, you might be higher up, so be where you need to be for you. And let's walk the toes right next to each other so your feet are touching, and take a chair pose. So sitting back in chair, let your arms reach out in front because we're going to take a twist here as well. Let's start by going to the left. So left hand going back, twisting around, staying high, or once again using your elbow on the outside of your knee to deepen the twist. Maybe you take your hands back to prayer. Breathing here. If you're noticing that your right knee is sliding forward, you might try pulling it back in line with your left knee. That's optional. And then we're going to go to the other side. You can stay in chair or come up to go to the other side. Left elbow coming across, or you're just staying high using the core muscles. Again, maybe pulling the left knee back. Breathe in. If your hands are touching, you can be gazing over your shoulder. And again, you can come out into a forward fold or into chair. And then wherever you are from that position, next time you're breathing in, standing up. Grabbing something out there in the world and pulling it down into you. And then letting something go. Again, fingertips to the floor. Shake your head out. Take the right foot back. Great. And hopping the right toes out to the right again. I'm going to spin around. I'm going to do another balance pose. This time it's going to be eagle. So from crescent lunge, the left leg is a nice shelf already. You're going to see if you can launch off the back foot, bring it up and over, and then the right arm goes under for eagle. So now your hands are going to be in the way of your viewpoint, what you're staring at. So you might just shift your gaze a little to the side so you have something stable to look at. Breathing there. Couple breaths. And now if you can, I'm going to pivot to the side so you can see what I'm doing. See if you can keep your arms in the eagle pose as you undo and try to balance on the left foot. If that's not working for you, you just take your hands out. If you have blocks, you can grab them. If you can reach the floor, you do that. If you don't have a block and you can't reach the floor, you can bend your knee. Just working on the balance here. Maybe your arms are still in eagle. And then bending both legs, coming up, keeping your arms or putting them back that way. Just like back bend, breathing, take your arms up and overhead, and then fingertips back to the floor. Great, left foot back. Sinking in. Pop your toes out to the left side a little bit so you can come up for the crescent lunge. And now you launch off the back foot, preparing your right thigh to hold you in eagle, lifting up and over. So the left leg is on top, the left arm is underneath. And you're reaching your forearms to the floor. Breathing here, Maybe going for the challenge of standing on one foot, the right foot now, as you come undone. And using your arms in any way you need to support yourself. See, I'm coming out all over the place. Good. And then at some point, bring the left foot back to the floor, coming up, bringing your arms into eagle again if they weren't there, reaching up and over, now undoing, and folding to the floor. Shake out your head, move your jaw around, and let's take the left foot to the back. And then the right foot, downward dog, coming forward to plank. So this time, you're either going to just lower to the floor and move back to downward dog, or you can join me in playing with side plank. Side plank, if you have any issues with a shoulder or wrist, you probably want to skip it. If you want to do it to avoid wrist issues, you can come onto your forearm, but it makes it a little more challenging in the core. So different ways you can approach this. So you're going to tip both heels over to the right side. Left side body is going toward the ceiling. The front foot, the left foot, can come out in front like a little kickstand to make the plank a little easier. You can use that foot as much as you need to, or as little as you need to. If you find that that foot is really not doing a whole lot, then you can bring it back either in front of, or on top of, or floating above your right leg. So find a place where you feel comfortable in your side plank. Maybe you look up if you want the balance challenge again. And then we'll come back to regular plank and go the other way. So again, maybe you have your foot out in a kickstand, in front of your left foot, on top, or floating above. And if you are somebody that does the hand to big toe, you can play with that here. And when you're done doing whatever you're going to do, back to regular plank. Fill up with air. Now we're all going to lower to the floor if you're not there already. And then we're going to lift up, opening the front. Maybe you're doing upward dog. And then back to downward dog. If you were in child's pose this whole time, if you want to, you can come up to downward dog now. And if you've done this whole thing and you'd like to take a little rest, you can drop down into child's pose now. We'll be here for a couple more breaths. Catching up with your breathing pattern. Doing whatever little modifications you like in your downward dog. Maybe you're wiggling your hips side to side. Maybe you're again playing with the deeply bent knees. And now whatever you're doing, let's try all coming to hands and knees. If you need a little extra cushioning under your knees, you can grab a cushion somewhere in your house, or maybe you double up your mat. You can bring in the mat a little bit from each side like that to get yourself a little cushion. Because we're going to be on our hands and knees for a little bit. Here. I'm going to turn to the side now. So let's reach the right fingertips forward, left heel reaching back, long spine. So there's no arch right yet. So I'm stretching long, playing around with trying to get my left hip the same height off the floor as my right hip, if I can. And then sometime when you're breathing out, pull your elbow and your knee in toward each other, and then extending out long. So this is the set point and the extended part. You can come back to this every time, or each time you can get a little deeper into a back bend. So you can pull in again on your exhale, reaching out, maybe you come to a slight arch. And then you can pull in again on your exhale, and you either come to the flat back, slight arch, or reach around for a half bow. Lifting your chin high, the sole of your foot and the crown of your head going toward the ceiling equally. Letting go, and again, as you exhale, pulling in. Great. Now let's put all four on the floor. Pause, and switch sides. So now the left fingers reach forward, right heel energetically reaching back. Again, making an adjustment in your hips so you're not stacking your right hip high or dropping it low, but it's just even as much as you can be. Again, feeling the long spine. And on your exhale, as you exhale, round in, and either come back to the flat back or lifting taller. Again, on your exhale, rounding in. Use your pulling out to breathe in. Maybe you're going to deeper back bend. And then the last one, maybe if you did it on the other side, you want to do it on this side. The half bow. So lifting the foot and the head equally. Release that. Last time coming in. And then all four on the floor again. Take a breath in here. Now I'm going to show you this angle. We're going to do the thread the needle. So first, take a little motion with your wrists and fingers, releasing any tension there. And then with your elbow bent, move your shoulder joint around, move your arm any way that feels good. And then take your arm high, fill up with air. As you exhale, slide your arm through. If you've never done this before, look and see what it looks like before you go into it. So you want your head and your shoulder to be resting on something. If you're more like here, just grab a cushion, or if you have a block or something that you can rest your head on, and something for under your shoulder. So you want to be supported in this pose. Wherever you are, you can be actively pressing your left hand into the floor, left elbow high, lifting your left shoulder toward the ceiling, and taking your left knee and hip toward the floor. After a couple of breaths of that active version of the pose, you can just let your forearm relax down and just angle down and breathe. So allow the air to slide into your lungs. Empty out. Again, you can pretend that more than just oxygen and air is coming into your nose, and more than just CO2 is coming out. But the air can be a metaphor for things that your body needs and is good for it. And the air going out can be a metaphor for things that you don't need, the waste products. So let each breath make a new you. So now you're going to take your left hand, put it right in front of your face, come up as you're breathing in, move that arm around again if you like, and then we'll explore with the left fingers and wrist and shoulder joint, moving around. Anytime you like, sliding your arm through, supporting your head and shoulder in some way that works for you. The biggest thing in yoga is that our bodies are way more asymmetrical than you think. So take care of each side individually and make any adaptations that you need to, adaptations. So again, maybe the right hand is pressing in, right elbow high, right shoulder high, right hip and knee dropping to the floor. So actively twisting, and at some point as you're letting the breath out, you let the effort out as well, and relax into just whatever twist is happening. Breathing there for a little bit. I'm going to get a little drink of water. You can too. So whenever you're ready, right hand right in front of your face to press into it, and again, just moving around your left arm, any way that you like. Great. Okay, so again, you're facing the short end of your mat, toes tucked under. Let's take a downward dog. If you're not comfortable doing that, you'll just stay in downward dog for a couple more breaths. So you can lift your right toes high, emphasizing the heel if you like. Allow your right hip to drop down below your left hip. Your toes will start to point toward the left. Feeling a stretch in your outer left hip. Then let your toes point the other way as your right hip stacks over your left hip. And then you can bend your knee, move it around however you like. We're going next to Pigeon Pose. So if you're not familiar with Pigeon Pose, you'll have to look up here. You're going to bring your left shin forward and lay it down on the mat. Then you try to have your hips as even as possible. If you're comfortable doing Pigeon Pose and you know what you're doing, you can just go right into it. Although I like to start with it with an upward pigeon before I lay down. And you want your back kneecap to face straight down, the top of your back foot to be facing toward the floor. If you find yourself falling over onto your right hip a lot, you can take a cushion or a block or a rolled up towel if you have one for the relaxation, and place it under your hip on the right side. I'll show you what that would look like. Here, like this. Because you want to be able to relax a little bit and not feel like you're falling out of the pose. Okay, so you've got your body set up here, and lifting your chest high, chin high, fill up with air. And as you exhale, you're going to lower down to the floor. Some people, the floor might not be a comfortable place for their head, so you're going to take a block at whatever height. If you don't have a block and you're not comfortable on the floor, you can stack your fists. Make any accommodation so that you feel okay here. We're going to be staying here for a few breaths. If the thought of doing that is making your body clench up right now, then you need to make some kind of adjustment. It can be you come up a little bit higher. Maybe you're going to spin it up on your elbows or on your forearms. Maybe you're bringing your heel in a little closer to your groin to reduce the intensity there. And if it's still not a comfortable place for you, then you're going to come onto your back with another forehip opener where your right ankle will be across in front. I made a triangle here. You reach with your right hand through, holding out behind your left thigh and flexing your right foot. And that's going to give you that muscle stretch in the same area, but with a little more control because gravity is not so much a part of the picture. So you're in whatever variation of pigeon pose is working for you. Taking a few more breaths. Once again, thinking about how the air coming in can be helpful. The air going out can drain tension, physical tension, mental tension. So if you're on your back, I'm just going to have you switch sides and come in here. And you'll be a little bit longer here because if you're on your front, we're going to do the three-legged dog on the other side. So if you're on your front, hands to the floor, rising up as you breathe in, tuck your back toes, go back to three-legged dog, liberate that knee joint after all that. Shake your leg around if you like, and plant your right foot to the floor. So lengthening everything out in an even downward dog before you move your right foot to the center at the back of the mat. Let your left leg lift high. Drop your left hip low so your toes point toward your standing leg, toward the right side. Feel the stretch in the outer right hip. Sometime when you're breathing in, reverse that and let your left hip lift up tall, toes point the other way. You can bend your leg, bend your knee, and move things around any way you like. Find all the different ways that your hip joint moves before you bring it forward to lay down on the mat. So my left side is much tighter than my right side. For you, it might be the other way. You, again, make any accommodation you need, stacking some support under your left hip, finding the proper angle for your left shin to be, and making sure your back leg is going down. You're either rising up, breathing in, or you're on your back, doing it with the left foot in front, and on your exhale, lowering down. Again, if your forehead is not comfortably on the floor, then provide some support for it. And if it's nowhere near the floor or something that you can stack up, that's fine too. You just stay up a little bit and breathe. So working with your breath. In and out. Feeling gravity working, settling in. Once again, in these more intense stretches, you might also find that your mind is not able to dwell on things external. So keeping that in mind again, for when you're feeling like things are a little overwhelming, maybe you give yourself a physical challenge for your mind to focus on. So when you feel like you've done this side about as long as the other side, those of you on your back, it'll be a little bit longer. You're going to breathe up, and again, tuck your toes. Liberate the left leg now. And those on your back, you can come around and join us in downward dog. We're actually going to be getting onto our backs again in a moment. So downward dog, let's do one last vinyasa. That's the thing where you come forward to high plank and lower down, etc. So coming forward, again, chance to work on some core strength. If you'd like, you can try some push-ups now. So just make sure that you're breathing out as you descend. A lot of people grip their faces and hold their breath. So take a nice breath in. As you lower, exhale. Maybe you're coming back up. Maybe it's just a tiny micro bend. Maybe it's knees on the floor and a tiny micro bend. Any little bit is going to help you to build strength. And if you ever want to do balance poses, arm balances, then you're going to need to have the ability to keep your elbow at this bent angle and holding your weight. We're going to try crow pose in a moment. So you've had your push-up fun. You're going to lower to the floor. One last time, opening the front, either cobra or upward dog, and then back to downward dog. Fill up your lungs, empty them out. Fill them up again and hold on to that air for a little bit before you empty out through your mouth. And then just start to walk your feet up toward the front of the mat. So I'm going to show you at this angle. Again, if you have a squishy mat, then you'll want to make sure your hands are off the mat if you're doing any kind of arm balances. Once again, if you do crow and you know what you're doing, feel free to go into it right now. If you want to play around with side crow, any kind of variations, now's your time. If you're not familiar with crow at all, take a watch. And if you have always struggled with crow, stay with me for a moment here, okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of tips. What I like to do is start with my feet right next to each other and the knees as wide as possible apart, all right? And the knees as high up off the floor as possible. Then you're going to let your torso go down in between your thighs as much as possible. And then you make contact with your upper arm and your lower leg as high up on your arm as possible. So there are a lot of as possibles here. You're just going to do what you can do. Then pick your hands up off the floor and fall. Wherever your hands happen to land to prevent your fall, that's usually a good place for people to work. A lot of times people have their hands too close. If you were trying to keep yourself from falling, it'd be harder. So that's kind of a good way to work on that. So next, useful for you, you can put a target for you to look at out in front. And then keeping the arms and legs pressing into each other, lift your hips high. I'm still pressing my arms and legs into each other. Now for a lot of people, this is a beautiful crow pose right here with legs or feet on the floor. And what happens with a lot of people is they think, crow pose, my feet are supposed to be off the floor. So I'm going to go forward and I'm going to pick my feet up, but I fall. That happens again and again and again. What you need to do is you need to be patient, and it might not happen today. It might happen weeks from now, months from now, when you built that strength. You're going to transfer your weight to your hands and keep your feet on the floor as long as there's weight in them. So I have weight in my toes right now. If I pick them up, I'm not going to stay. If I keep moving the weight over, now magically the weight has come out of my feet, and now I can pick them up and I can balance. But as long as there's weight on my feet, then I'm not going to be able to stay in the pose. So hopefully that little tip helped you in your crow pose today. If not, just keep trying, and you're getting wonderful benefits from crow being just like this. Okay, so now we are going to have a seat. Yay. And sit in any way that's comfortable for you. You can either just have it be like a totally relaxing pose, just sitting cross-legged, or if you have a block or something like it, a nice comfortable way to sit is with the block between your ankles, and you can sit on it this way. For a lot of people, that's a very comfortable way to sit upright. I'm going to choose to be doing a little stretching while we're working on our wrist flexibility. So I'm going to sit up on a block and have the soles of my feet together. If you don't have a block, maybe you don't need one. If you are sitting on the floor and you have a slight curve in your low back, then you're good to go. When I sit like this, my back rounds, so I like to sit on the block. So find a way for you to sit that's comfortable, or stretching something for you. And then we're going to work on our wrists a little bit. So take your hands up, and again, just move just your fingers and thumbs. Catch up with your breath if it got away from you during the challenging crow pose. And then get your wrists in on the action, just moving around. Good. If you're doing a stretch, make sure that your legs are actually relaxing. And now bring your forearms together and make a fist with both hands and wiggle your wrists around. Keep your breath flowing nicely. And now you're going to keep holding on to your fingers like this and pull your elbows away from each other without letting the grip of your hands go. Kind of opening up the wrist joint. A couple breaths there. Try to relax around your neck. And then I like to do this like a little stair step. You're going to lift one forearm up and the other forearm down. So your hands are a vertical thing, and it's like the riser on a stair, and the forearms are the treads. There's the architect in me coming up. You're still pulling the wrists away from each other, feeling the stretch on the outer wrist and the upper hand, the inner wrist and the lower hand. And at some point, stretching out again is switch. So now the upper wrist is getting a stretch, left wrist. You keep lifting the lower elbow, so you're stretching the inner wrist on that side. Good. Now you're going to shake your hands out again. Reach your arms out in front of you, palms facing away from each other, thumbs down. Let's take the right arm on top, and again, make a fist here. Shoulders relaxing down, fill up with air. And when you're exhaling, you can bring your knuckles in toward you. Some people stop here, others can get all the way to here, others can straighten their arms out all the way, depending on how flexible your wrists are or how your elbow joints work, however that big that might be. So getting a stretch there, breathing, relaxing, and then undoing. Take your left hand on top, palms facing each other, thumbs facing down, and again, fill up. As you exhale, bring your hands in, go to the stretch, the edge. Beautiful. Breathing there. So we're slowing down a little bit now. Notice, is your head filling up with all the extra stuff now? And you're not balancing on one foot or trying to balance on your hands or whatever. What do you do with that? My goal is always to just not let it come down into my body and turn into butterflies in my stomach or clenched shoulders or something like that. It's okay if it stays up here and it's just ruminating around. So now I'd like you to join me in the bound angle. So with your feet touching each other, soles of the feet touching each other, your heels as comfortably close to your groin as works for you, and then just letting your legs relax down. Again, if you find that you're rounding in your low back, so it's hard to sit up tall, grab a block or a cushion or something to sit on and allow yourself to have good posture in your upper body. Nice. So if this is a good stretch for you, you're going to stay here. Otherwise, you can hold on to your feet, maybe opening up the inner, the big toe side of your feet away from each other like a book and folding forward. If you want to, you can round down. Let your chin drop in, feel the stretch in the back of your neck. Take a breath into the rounding that you've created in your back, opening up the muscles there. And again, you might hold on to that air one of these inhales. Let it go. A couple more breaths here. If you want to, you can use your elbows on your thighs to gently is the key word here, press your legs down. Nothing, again, overly ambitious. There's nowhere your legs are supposed to be, just wherever you feel the good stretch for your body. And then coming up. So if you're on a block, you can stay on the block. We're going to do what's called Gomukhasana. It's called cow face pose. I don't know why. You're going to slide your left shin across onto the floor, and then your right leg comes across here. So the reason I said to stay on the block is for a lot of people, it's nicer to be on the block. If you know, then you've done this pose before, and you can feel comfortable sitting just on the floor, then you can do that. So here, for many people, it's quite an intense hip stretch. If it's too much for you, again, you can come onto your back and have your legs out this way and holding on at your knees or your shins or your ankles, wherever you can reach for the hip stretch there. So the reason I'm doing this pose today is, again, the point of having these classes is that there's a lot going on, and maybe you need a little retreat. This is one of my favorite ways to do that. So your legs are wrapped up, you're either sitting on a block or not, and then again, you can fold forward. So as you exhale, dropping in. If your head is anywhere near the floor, you can use whatever series of blocks or some other prop. If you have a stool nearby, you can put your head on the stool. Just something so your head is supported. And then you can let your elbows drop toward the floor, open your back, and hopefully at this point you feel kind of comfortable and calm. If you don't, then adjust something in your physical body. Maybe you come up higher, maybe you go onto your back. And you're just going to take a few breaths there and just notice what the pose can do for you. Especially if you have your forehead on something, that stimulation on your forehead can be very soothing and calming. Breathe. So pretty soon we're going to be going towards Shavasana. If you have control over your music, if you're listening to some music, don't do it yet because we're going to do another slide here, but maybe think about changing your music to something a little more calming if you're listening to something really upbeat and lively. Okay, so now to come out of this pose, again, if you're on your back, you're just going to switch your legs. So you'll undo and put the left knee in front and work there. Those of us who are sitting up have the right knee on top. What I'm going to have us all do, and you're going to not be able to see for a little bit, but just bear with me. You can always try to glance around. Take your hands over to the left side, which is where your right foot is right now. Put your hands on the floor and undo the twist. You'll find yourself in a straddle position. You can drop into a forward fold in that straddle, if that's something that would feel nice for you, pausing there. But we're going to continue the journey over toward your left foot, coming onto your toes, spinning around. It's like twister. Those of you who are old enough to know what twister is. And now your right shin is going to come to the floor and the left knee on top. If you worked with the block under your hips on the other side, you might want to stay with that, or you might find that this side is a little more open. So again, make the accommodation for you. Again, sit up tall, and at some time when your lungs are full and you're going to empty out, you can fold forward. Find a way to support your forehead with something, maybe hands on a stool or a big pillow. If you don't have anything nearby, of course you can always just hang your head, but then it's just losing a little bit of that support in the pose. So if you do have something that you can support your forehead with, that'd be great. We'll spend a little more time here, breathing in, letting go. So the nice thing to do with the yoga practice is to really pay attention to what the different poses do in your body, because I can say, oh, my body feels much calmer when I'm in this pose here. But if that's not the case for you, then it doesn't do any good for me to tell you that it is. So be noticing. If you in your daily life are finding, oh, I wish I had a way to relax, notice the poses that make you feel, I feel relaxed here. And tuck those away and use that information. If in your daily life you find a lot of times, I wish I had more energy, notice the poses that make you feel a little more energized and tuck that information away. So you can be building your own toolkit as you're practicing yoga if you're paying attention. So notice what this pose is doing for you. Notice if it's not calming, if there's something you can change to make it that way. And then whenever you're done, when you're inhaling the next time, use it to come up to sitting. Again, you can notice. And then you'll come out of the pose. So those of you on your back, you can stay there because that's where we're going. And the others of us will just undo the legs and roll down onto your back. Before you roll onto your back, I should have said this, do make any changes in your music that would be supportive for you to be able to relax. And you're gonna, if you have your eye pillow or a small towel that you can put across your eyes, you're gonna grab that, and any kind of covering. It can be a light sheet or a thicker blanket. If you have something to put under your legs, you'll do that. So I'm gonna show you how I set up for Shavasana, and then I'm gonna come out of it and talk a little bit more. So you're gonna put your legs on whatever it is gonna support your legs, if you have such a thing. You're going to take the sheet or blanket and put it over your feet and your body. And then you grab your eye pillow and you get yourself all settled in. So I'm going to pull the beanbag up under my thighs so I feel supported. Do whatever you need to feel like it's a nice support for your legs. You're going to take the eye pillow, put it over my eyes, or you'll wrap your small towel, move the ponytail out of the way if that's an issue, and then take the covering, place it up around your shoulders. You can decide if you want your arms under the covering or out, and this is how you're going to be set up. Now, if you don't have all the accoutrements, then at least if you have any lights on, turn them off, or if you can close a curtain or something like that. The classic Shavasana pose is just with the legs out a little bit away from each other, arms a little bit away from your body, palms facing up, and just relaxing there. So find a place for you to be, a way for you to be in the final relaxation. Hopefully everyone's all set up, or nearly so, with some calming music or some sense of quiet. I can hear the birds here in my studio or outside the studio. And if you have an eye pillow especially, or even if not, bring your attention to your eyes and the muscles around your eyes. Feel them softening. Feel your eyebrows losing any tension, the forehead, temples. Maybe you even notice the muscles of your cheeks relaxing. Feel the joint where your jawbone connects to your skull. Let that soften. That might create a little opening in your mouth, slight opening, but still continue to breathe in and out through your nose for the most part. Feel your tongue relaxing in your mouth. And now let your whole head be heavy and make sure it's resting on the floor and you're not holding it up at all. So your neck muscles have completely released. And before we start moving down the body, let's just check in with what's inside your head, your thoughts, if that's in fact where they live. A lot of times your thoughts actually live in other places in your body, don't they? Butterflies in your stomach or tension in your hips, or some sort of sense of flightiness in your feet. So as you lie here and we go through down the body, give your brain something to focus on that's not outside the room in the past or in the future, but instead is right in your space right now. So feel your tops of your shoulders relaxing as you exhale, sliding toward the floor. As you inhale, don't make any extra effort to lift your chest, but just notice your chest lifting. If you have a soft sheet over you, feel the softness and try to let your upper body, all the muscles in your upper body, be as soft as that sheet laying on top of your bones. Everything relaxes. Suddenly your arms and hands feel heavier on the floor. It is one unit. When you breathe in, it gently rises, light and airy. As you exhale, it gently releases back down, heavy, relaxed. You can work with that image as you stay here and breathe in and out at your own pace, your own intensity, in the quiet. We'll be here for a few more minutes, and I will let you know when to come up, so don't worry. I'm going to keep you here all day. I do encourage you to actually do this. This is the best part. And maybe you move your tongue, and you wiggle your jaw around. Maybe the fingers and toes are the next things that get to move. And then anything that feels good. You might flex your ankles, circle your wrists, bend your elbows and knees. I like to do a full body stretch before I come out, so reach your toes in one direction, your fingers in the other. And then as you exhale, you pull everything into a tight little compact ball. Maybe you lift your forehead up toward your knees and roll to your right side. You can use your right arm as a pillow for your head, or if there's an actual pillow nearby, you can use that. And then put your left hand on the floor. Let your head be heavy as you come up. Next time you're breathing in, you can start to come up and then end up with your head up on top of your spine. So finding a comfortable way to be, sitting. You can be sitting on a block again. And I always like to end with a short moment of just quiet. So you can put one palm on your chest and the other on your other hand. So even though I've been alone in this room, talking to a piece of technology, I'm hoping that we've created some sort of community here this morning instead of the schools and workplaces and all those places where we normally gather. And if you enjoy this, I hope you come back another time and maybe tell some other people who might benefit from some time in this kind of community. So namaste to everyone, which just means the special thing in me sees the special thing in you. And I wish you all the best in this fine time. And remember to use your toolkit that you're building. Thank you so much for being here today. Hope to see you tomorrow.